I mean, there was blood all over the floor, and we were given the equipment to clean it. There was two guards standing there, and they had the big grins on their face, and they were just laughing. They were laughing at the guys who were sickened and actually frightened by what they saw. The reality was, you take care of what you need to take care of, and you hold yourself in such a fashion where you're going to get the respect you need to survive that time. Greetings and salutations. I'm Victor Sorting. Welcome to my channel, 28 to Persevere. Thanks for watching. For anyone who's about to go upstate, one of the first things they're going to be required to do is get a job. When I was in prison, I had many jobs throughout my time. Obviously, after 28 years, you would think I ran the gamut of what was available for me. I narrowed it down because I was very selective in what I was going to do because I wanted to bob and weave and avoid unnecessary bullshit and headaches, and the jailhouse politics was rampant throughout every prison I was in. So I don't want to involve myself in anything like that or get into a power struggle because a lot of men are bidding for certain jobs because jobs are limited based on the size of the population and the availability of jobs themselves. When I was in Auburn, I spent 19 years of my life. There's an industry department there. The vast majority of men worked there. The Corecraft building, it was called. They made license plates and various pieces of furniture that sent throughout the upstate New York buildings and whatnot. I never worked there. I never applied for that. There was availability there, and men worked there. I knew men that worked there 15, 20, or 30 years, and some even more. I worked in the school building, but initially, when I first came upstate, I was very leery of what jobs I wanted to take, and I took what was called a porter position. Porters, they're basically the daily maintenance man. They do the handy service of whatever is required of them. A jack of all trades, basically. They work the company. They work the tiers that they're on. They work the blocks that they're in. Basically, you maintain the floors, you take care of the showers, you do manual labor, whatever's required of you, you do. They crack your cell. The plus and the bonus for most men that porters, you have free reign basically on the company. Your cell is cracked, so you're not in your cell a lot. You move up and down the gallery. You communicate basically everybody. And guys need to pass stuff, food or whatever. You form an actual trust and a bond with a lot of those guys because you have to interact with most people. I was a porter on the C block for about almost 8, 9 years when I initially started Home Correction Facility, and that job is it could be high stressful because you have to deal with various personalities, and there are conflicts that can obviously devolve into extreme violence if you're not really aware of your social skills or your lack thereof. So, I really knew that I had to learn how to bob and weave and communicate with people and really hone into my skill set as far as my verbiage was concerned and how I held myself and who I interacted with and how I interacted with them. But took that job down and I took care of my business and did what I had to do for the many years it was the job. But it was that particular job that gave me a lot of insight into the personalities around me. It allowed me to communicate with people at so many different levels and to meet various personalities. Guys got to know me and how I was and my personality. Of course, people are going to try you. They're going to try to test you, see what they can get away with, and things like how they can talk to you or whatnot. And you have to establish these boundaries and be willing to fight or tap into your worship based instinct if you have to, just to prove your point that you're going to survive that environment. You're going to take care of whatever it needs to take care of. I mean, I set boundaries pretty soundly. How I carried myself. I wouldn't pass drugs or anything like that. I made that known right off the cusp. A lot of guys maybe looked down on me for that or whatever, but I didn't want to get involved in it because I didn't want to be accused of pocketing anything, not passing to the right guy, or even getting benched with it. You walk down company, get benched, somebody rats you out, whatever, you're involved in drugs, and you're done. You're in the box and most likely charged or whatever. So, I was trying to avoid all that. But I would pass short eyes, basically like pornography, stuff like that. I would pass food, whatever it may be. Then you do your job. You clean the showers, you clean the floor, um, you hand out supplies, toilet paper, soap, things of that nature. That when it was the time to do that, but you also had access to certain things. So if I had access to extra rolls of toilet paper, I would hit some of the guys off with extra rolls of toilet paper, soaps. That's a lifeline in prison. I mean, you get one roll of toilet paper in Auburn for 2 weeks. You better make that last. So if I had access to it, I would spread the wealth, but per se that that most men didn't have it. They didn't have it like that. So I'm not into watching people being tortured. And so if I could reach out to somebody, regardless of who they were, um, other than sex offenders, I stayed far away from. I didn't go out of my way to actually help them or any form of fashion. So the reality was you take care of what you need to take care of, and you hold yourself in such a fashion where you're going to get the respect you need to survive that time. My custodial maintenance job, which I held for almost 14 years in the Auburn Correctional Facility, was one hell of a job. I mean, this thing was a real shit show in more ways than one. I mean, it was borderline comical. I mean, first and foremost, it was a spot where you went to basically fall back. Um, I did the best I could as far as um, putting forth my best effort dealing with the job itself and making sure that I stayed away from any unnecessary headaches. But I'll tell you something. This particular spot, um, it was laid back. It was comical because first and foremost, you had most of the level one prisoners who were sent to custodial maintenance. They were assigned specifically to custodial maintenance. The level one offenders are the mental health men with severe mental health issues, and I went out of my way to like actually look out for a lot of these guys. A lot of these guys were almost like big children. I mean, they were really helpless and vulnerable to the environment. And not that I felt pity for them or anything of that nature. It's just the reality of dealing. They're basically dealing with small children. And I'm not into watching people bully people or exploit people for their weaknesses, inherited or otherwise. So I got to know a lot of these guys, and a lot of them were in for petty crimes. I mean, they were there because it was a level one prison. They didn't have life sentences. The vast majority of these guys were just men with severe mental health issues. And there was guys also with Down syndrome and stuff of that nature. And me and my coworkers who were with me at the time, I was there so long. I spent almost 14 years in facility maintenance, and I basically was running the shop itself. I was basically the foreman, and we would go on work details, and I would take a group with me and I'd handpick the guys. There was about 14 of us, and I would handpick about 5 or 6 of the guys, and we would have these assignments. We'd go over the jail, dealing with the floors and buffing and waxing and cleaning carpet, and you have basically free reign of the prison too. I mean, you're escorted. Obviously, there's guards with you at all times, but a lot of these guys, they, as I said, they were like children, and they really had to be educated, and they followed you around like the Pied Piper. I mean, but they respected me because I showed them kindness, I guess you could say, and I tried to lead them in the right direction, away from anybody that would exploit them. But the vast majority of those guys were decent individuals, and they were just dealing with their own psychosis and the things that they were dealing with, and that environment itself is a delirious environment in more ways than one. So, when you see guys that live like that, um, you try to help them out best you can, man. You put them under your wing, so to speak, and you barely ever see these guys in general population outside of the school building. They wouldn't walk the yard, anything like that, because as I said, they were in the mental health units, but they'd be assigned to custodial maintenance, and for whatever reason, that became the dropping ground for them. And the actual facilitator who ran the program, I mean, he was a decent guy, and he would basically fall back and read magazines most of the time. I mean, it was, as I said, it was really disorganized, kind of like a shit show. But I was there 6 to 8 hours every day, 5 days a week anyway, and the co-workers of mine, that one guy in particular, was with me for almost the entire time, and him and I got real close, and he was of the similar mindset of me and wasn't affiliating anybody, but he had respect universally throughout the prison. And we did this job. We did this job as best we could, and I got to know a lot of the different blocks and various individuals. I met guys throughout the facility, people that I would never see in the yard, because you learn to network in prison, and one of the ways of doing that is the jobs you're in. If you have a job that takes you throughout the facility, like custodial maintenance did, it has its drawbacks, obviously, but it has its pluses. Because you got to learn how to network in prison if you really want to survive. I mean, you could be a lone wolf, but acting like a mouse and hiding and scurrying all the time, it's not going to work. And people are going to understand that that's how you move, and they're going to be keening in on you as somebody that's very vulnerable and afraid. And the predators prey on fear. You can't go far in life walking in fear and living in fear, and I refuse to do that. So I learned how to network quick, even though I was a kid when I came upstate. I got into the job. I spent almost 14 years in that job, and it was a lifeline on a lot of things. It allowed me access into the minds of various individuals, and I learned to navigate that world. And custodial maintenance was basically that. It was a springboard for that type of navigation. It gave me direction, and very interesting. That what I learned per se, I taught myself. I mean, there really wasn't an instruction manual, and it wasn't like as far as the culture is concerned, it didn't teach you these type of skills. It wasn't as you would do it at some sort of BOCES or something of that nature. That it wasn't like that in any stretch of the word. I remember one assignment we were given in custodial maintenance to go clean a floor. It was in the industry department in the basement. And unbeknown to me at the time, we were about to go into a room where there was a fight that happened earlier in the day, stabbing. And the room was really, there was puddles of blood. I mean, it was all over the floor. There was blood everywhere, and our job was clean. And they have certain jobs for men that clean this, cleaners. For whatever reason, that particular day, they assigned custodial maintenance men to go down there and clean it up. And I grabbed my crew of guys. I had about 5 other guys, not knowing where we were going or what we were doing. And the men I had with me, 4 out of the 5 guys had extreme mental health issues. And we went into this downstairs in this basement, and we go into this room, and you see all this blood. I mean, there was blood all over the floor, and we were given the equipment to clean it. I looked over at and then the blood, and I looked over at the guys that I was with, and my coworker who was with me the whole time. Him and I both knew. I mean, this wasn't good. This wasn't good for the guys that we were with, and they wouldn't take this too well. So of course, as it would be, a lot of those guys started having breakdowns. I mean, there's some guys that wouldn't obviously touch the blood or anything of that nature, and I met one guy that started crying when he saw it, and there was breakdowns happening all over. And I remember watching these men, and trying to talk to them and explain to them, listen, man, you're good, man. Just go in the corner there and chill out and relax, sit down or whatever. We'll take care of it. But out of the 4 or 5 guys that were with us, I'd say about 3, maybe 4 or 4 of them uh, really messed up by it. I mean, it really affected them mentally. We're seeing all the blood, and these guys, as I said earlier, I mean, they weren't hard criminals. These are just men with mental health issues, and seeing all that blood on the floor and being assigned to clean, and the guards didn't care. I mean, they were laughing. I mean, literally, I remember looking to the left of me and at the door where the door was where we entered, and there was 2 guards standing there, and they had the big grins on their face, and they were just laughing. They were laughing at the guys who were sickened and actually frightened by what they saw, and that in itself sickened me. Seeing them do this and that type of abuse, and they knew what they did, and I truly that's why we were assigned that job, so they could see men mentally break down. So yeah, I basically single-handedly, me and my coworker at the time, who was also basically a foreman too, he and I basically cleaned all the blood off the floor and mopped it up and sprayed it down, and we had the bleach and whatever the supplies we needed. But that in particular, that really bothered me, and it really pissed me off, to be perfectly honest with you, at the guards, because I knew what they did and why they did it. And you feel for the guys that dealing with the mental issues that they were dealing with, and after we were brought back to, so a lot of those guys I didn't see for 2 3 weeks. They were just left in the mental health units and dealing with whatever they were dealing with based on that, just by the traumatic experience of seeing that and being assigned to clean it, and having the guards laugh and snicker at them and saying who knows what at them. I'm sure it was very derogatory, denigrating in more ways than one. It's just a little insight into 2 of the jobs that I had for many years while incarcerated. I also worked in the laundry department in the Elmira Correctional Facility for about 3 4 months, and that job in and of itself was thankfully really unremarkable. I worked there with a bunch of guys that I knew for years and years. I mean, we were all in Elmira, and then we knew each other for the previous time that we spent together in Auburn. So we all kind of like organized and orchestrated in a fashion so that we could meet up in the laundry department and work that job. That job basically was just, as I said, very unremarkable. Nothing really happened of extreme nature there. We did our jobs and took care of our business, cleaning the laundry and the linen throughout the facility. But that job I only kept for 3 4 months. Didn't keep it very long. But it's just a little insight into some of the jobs that I had and some experiences that I had that just kind of stood out to me. Until next time, go with the gods and persevere. Hit me up with a comment and share this video. I appreciate you. Thank you.